Well, hello, class, and welcome to the second day of the second week of the second unit. I hope your week is off to a great start. I wanted just to kind of talk about a little bit of a scenario, if you will, that potentially could take place that I think paints kind of a picture of how what we're talking about in this course kind of bleeds into the other aspects of the work that you're doing. So I was thinking about this scenario, and oftentimes I'll kind of role play it or have a bit of a vignette, but I'm not going to do that tonight. But just imagine, spend time, even as I say this, as I kind of give you the scenario, pause this and think about what would be the ramifications of this. Let's say a family comes into your office. And this family, it's a family of four. You got a mom, dad, brother, sister, 16-year-old daughter, 14-year-old son, marriage of 24 years. And the husband has been employed at a pretty large, well-to-do marketing firm, and he's the chief marketing officer for this marketing firm. He's been there for 17 and a half years, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, a year ago, his job is eliminated and he's blindsided. This was something that he loved, and the joke in the family is oftentimes that he loved his job more than even his family. And all of a sudden, the job that he loved so much, in which he found his identity, is gone. Just think about what that does to the family. Think about how that career well-being, how it impacts the overall realities of that family. And let's think about this. Maybe because he was in this larger position, he was really good at managing his money, so they have a pretty good nest egg that's in savings, okay? So financially, maybe they even had an inheritance, a couple of years ago, and so they have this excess of money that they can pull from. Think about all those, the five elements, right? So they live in a very safe community because they were able to buy this home that was in a very safe community because they had this big job and they could afford it, right? So their community well-being, their financial well-being, these things are up, right? Maybe one of the things, the perks that was at this firm for the dad was that he had a gym at his workplace, and so he was in very good shape because he had a routine that he would get to work at 7 and he would exercise from 7 to 8:30, and then he would start his day. And then he would leave the office and he would come home, and they lived in this great community, but they also had a great social life. So all of these things are there. They're all good things, right? They've got friends, they've got money, they've got health, they've got safety. But the career piece has gone away. Think about what that does to the individual, but then also to the family. As you start to kind of extrapolate that, think about potentially promises that have been made to these kids. Daughter's 16 years old, was promised a car. Now all of a sudden the job has gone away, and although there's some money to live on, there's some uncertainty for the future, and so the car purchase was put on hold. Think about that, what that does for the relationship with her and her parents, but also her and her friends who had been dependent upon her or looking forward to her, or even kind of popularizing her because she was going to get that car. Or think about the 14-year-old, in that prime time of, junior high, which is always so awkward, but he always had the cool stuff because his dad and his mom, who was working as well, had this excess of money, right? But there are other factors. His mom was working. She was working part-time and volunteering her time, super involved. She just voted onto the school board. She was on the PTA, president of PTA, and so she was always around the school, and she was home. And even though sometimes a 14-year-old child doesn't really seem to act as though they care that their parents are home, she's not there anymore. And when dad is home, he's on the couch. Think about what it does and what potentially that could create as this family walks into your office. I think that there's this question at the beginning of our class where they go, you might go, why am I taking this class in career development? It has nothing to do with the rest of my curriculum. And yet I would argue it has everything to do with the rest of your curriculum. I think it has everything to do because everything touches on a career of some sort. You either want one or you have one. And the one you have you don't want, or the one you don't have you want, right? So or the one that you have, you like aspects, but then every now and again your mood changes depending upon how the job is going, right? I have a friend who, growing up, her dad was a huge Raiders fan, and I remember her telling me that depending on the outcome of the Raiders game that specific Sunday, you knew how the feel of the home was going to be, right? She would either invite you over on some Sundays, and you knew that was because the Raiders had won, or she wouldn't because they didn't. Now, if you know the Raiders, they didn't have a great track record of winning, so more often than not, Sunday afternoons in that home were challenging. Is that the same with work? Think about it, right? If our identity is found in the thing that we spend the majority of our waking hours during the work week doing, or I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and he was saying that even when he's not at work, when he's in the shower, when he's getting ready to go to bed, when he's driving, he's always thinking about work because he wants to be the best at the work that he does. Think about how that affects the relational aspects that then walk into your office as you have to talk through these issues from a counseling standpoint. And if you don't drill down and get to the heart of what's potentially really happening at the core from a career standpoint, then I think you're missing something. So I want to encourage you to think about the connections between what we're looking at in this course and what you're looking at in the rest of your curriculum, because I think that they are, some might say few and far between. I think they are very, very connected. All right. So there's that for you. We are, as I mentioned in the second, if you have questions about that or thoughts, please share. I'd love to hear from you. Love to kind of, oh yeah, that does resonate. Or that, what does that kind of conjure up in you? How do you think about that scenario? Because I think that's going to happen more often than not. If you aren't thinking from a career mindset, you might miss something with some of these clients that you're working with. All right. So, we are in, like I said, the second module, the second unit. We're in the second week. Last night, I gave you an extension to respond to your initial discussion post. I'm hearing that there's some issues with the reply button. I've put a ticket into IMT, and I've not heard back on specifics, but we're working on that. So if that's the case, we'll figure it out. I'll keep you updated. I don't know if some of you are able to see the reply button. I can see it on my end. I know that the settings are correctly set, so I'm not sure what's happening. But if you're experiencing that as well, just bear with me. We're working on it. I put the request in. I've gotten some feedback back and forth, and we haven't gotten a solution yet, but we're working on it, okay? The case studies. Your case study responses, when I grade them, because there's not a one-size-fits-all reality to a case study or how you would approach a counseling situation, I'm not looking for a specific answer. I'm looking for an approach. Okay, and I'm looking for a content that's thoughtful, that's thorough, and complete. Did you actually put the time in? Is it obvious, or was it is it obvious it was kind of one of those afterthoughts, like, yeah, I'll type some words and that's fine? Because if you're doing that, I probably already given you a note. I need to see more detail in the future. All right. Same thing with the discussion posts. A couple things on that. If we were in a face-to-face class, we would be in class 3 hours per week, every week. So this is an online class, not a face-to-face class. We know that. But it's not out of the question if you were to spend 3 hours in the online classroom every single week. Okay? And that doesn't include your reading, doesn't include your assignments. It's just your in-class work, which is your responses to the case studies, eventually the LipTAC 321, eventually your exercises, and then your discussion posts. All of the reading that goes into that, not part of the class, right? It's just the discussions where our peer-to-peer learning is taking place. So as you think about your engaged responses, right, your initial response, it should be very thorough, okay? I want to see it, critical analysis, lots of in-depth thought, lots of I want your citations, I want it to be AP, all those different things. It has to be really well thought out and done. If it hasn't been, I've given you feedback on that, and I probably said I need to see more in the future. When I say more, what I mean is I need to see more, right? In the discussions, what I'm looking for is an actual discussion. So this is not just a, hey, that's a really great thought, but it's a back and forth. It's a, hey, I really appreciate how you said this. Have you thought about this? Or what do you think about this? And it's a back and forth. Now, as an ongoing thing, at some point it will end, but a discussion isn't just, it's a discussion, right? A discussion means an engaged back and forth, or it's not a discussion, it's a monologue. And I don't want a monologue, I want a dialogue, okay? So, and again, if that means that you're spending upwards of 3 hours every week in the classroom in that engaged conversation, so be it, because this is a 3-unit course, which means it's a 3-hour class over the course of 15 weeks of instruction. All right, so if you have any questions on that, let me know. You should all have your grades back for the first unit. I grade them per unit. I don't do them as the things are submitted, so I want to do it collectively so that no one's comparing and contrasting. So that's there for you. Grades are there. If you need to see them, you can click on grades and you'll see your grades. The second module, you have your discussion post, your second case study, and of course your well-being response paper is due. Okay, and again, remember to be writing that in APA version 7. I sent you a PowerPoint presentation that should be pretty helpful in that, and also one of our co-classmates sent me a website that I've seen before, which is a nice reminder that I'll share out with you as well that kind of gives some more details on APA. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know how I can help. I'm here to support you. I want to see you be wildly successful in this class. And if you put the time in, you're thorough, you're thoughtful, you're complete, and you're committed, you should do just fine in this class. All right. Hope your second week goes well. I will keep you updated on the reply issue. If for some reason you're good with that, great. If you have issues, I would love to know so I can continue to put that forth to IMT. So just send me a quick note and say, I'm having issues, raise your hand, or send me an email or something through Canvas. I'm also having issues with replying in the discussion posts. All right, have a great week, and we will see you online.